So it's been a while since we've done just a good old-fashioned tabletop knife review, and look at this. This is what we have here. This is the Off-Grid Knives. This is the Backcountry V2, that's version 2. So they took the original, they've improved it in a couple of different ways, and man, I am super thrilled about this. Now also, because you can't have too many, got the Blackout version here. That's pretty awesome as well. So got two different colors here, the Coyote, the Blackout, but want to do a review on this knife, just tabletop review. We'll do some outdoor activities with this at some point soon, but I can already tell just by holding this, the ergonomics, especially for this V2 with these chamfers they've cut out, they've milled out into these G10 handles here, that is super comfortable in the hand. So Off-Grid Knives is a family-owned American business since 2016. They support military and first responders and the Second Amendment rights, and it's also a supplier to actually the U.S. Border Patrol. They've supplied knives to the U.S. military as well. And I've loved them as a company, as a brand, and I've used several of their knives actually. In a couple other videos that I have, I use this. This is the Grizzly V2 chef knife. I did a video on making some beef stew and used this. Actually, I used this. This is my first knife I used with them, and I just got this one off Amazon. But and I love this so much, I reached out to them and said, hey, just to let you know, I loved your knife. Good job. And so they were really happy about that. And so this is a great little chef knife. If you'd like doing some cooking in the woods, you know, great option. I'll drop some links for these down below. I did a full review on this one. This is the Tracker X2, also awesome knife. And, you know, we'll probably look at some differences in you know, what Net and Fancy calls the philosophy of use differences between these two here. But also an excellent blade here. And actually the one that I'm carrying even today, my EDC today, the Stinger EDC. Awesome blade. The spear point, you can also get a drum point. So all that to say, they've got tons of knives there, and they're a relatively new company, but just the fit and finish is just bar none. They are doing a fantastic job. I love what they're for, what they stand for, and so when I got this and the Blackout version here, I was really thrilled to be able to review these and take a closer look at this knife here. So what is a philosophy of use for a knife like this? Well, I consider this knife a true survival knife. And by survival, I mean that you can do lots of different tasks with it. I mean, you can do woodcraft with this, you can go camping with this. Certainly, you know, it has that kind of more tactical look to it with this blade shape here. And it's really kind of a compound blade shape. It's not a true drop point, kind of is. Not true spear point either. It's just kind of a compound style of blade shape, which is kind of cool. So I think it's just an overall, all-around type of blade. It's very beefy. I mean, this is a beefy knife for sure. You know, when I think about an all-purpose knife, it's one that you can use to build camp. And that's what I'm saying, survival. So you're building camp. You can use it for self-defense. You can use it for all kinds of stuff. And that's why I think it's like maybe the perfect all-around knife. You know, this Tracker X2 that I mentioned, this would be a good like bushcraft camp knife, but it's not going to have that aspect of the tactical self-defense type blade here, almost a spear point here, and so it's not going to have that. And so that's why I think the ultimate survival knife. That's probably what I'm going to call this, the ultimate survival knife, because it can combine so many other types of uses in this one knife. So it has a 4.5-inch blade here, 4.5-inch blade, and a 4.75-inch handle. So I've got medium to large hands, and so you can see this fills my hand out pretty well. If you have extra large hands, it might be a little small, but you can see the two chamfer marks here, you know, for the first two fingers and then the last two fingers right here. You can kind of see that. So that's part of the version 2, is they've added that to make it just a lot more comfortable than the first version. So it weighs 10 ounces as a knife, and if you have the sheath on it, we'll talk about that in just a moment. That's 12 ounces altogether. So 10 ounces as a knife, so it is beefy for sure. And the blade thickness in millimeters, it's a little over 4 millimeters thick right here. So you can kind of see it's a full tang, obviously. You got some jimping on the back, some jimping right here. You know, I've actually kind of looking at the steel here. So it's a Cryo. You see this? Cryo D2. Cryo D2. So people ask sometimes, what does Cryo mean for a blade? Well, Cryo is part of the heat treatment process where in treating the blade, what Cryo does, you know, you have to heat up the blade, you know, super hot. The Cryo treatment is you put the steel into this cryogenic treatment that is like several hundred degrees, 300 degrees or so, below zero. It freezes it very fast. And why do you do that? Well, the purpose for a cryogenic treatment on steel, like a knife steel or any kind of tool steel like that, is that all of the particles in the steel, they combine and become very tough, very resistant. So there's several benefits to that. One is that when you plunge the knife from a high temperature to a really low temperature like that, number one, it makes it more corrosive resistant. So it's not going to corrode as easily because you got tighter particles in the actual metal, and so it will be more corrosive resistant. The other thing is it makes it has a better edge retention. So the actual edge will have a better retention. And then third, it will be more durable and strong when they do that cryo treatment. It's not a whole lot more money to do that for a knife manufacturer, and so a lot of them are doing this now for various types of tool steels. D2 has been, I mean, for a long time, one of my favorite types of tool steels because it has that great combination of some of those, the chromium that's in there. I mean, so it has some of the stainless properties, but also has that high carbon content. And so it may be the best of all worlds for a multi-purpose fixed blade knife like this. So I'll talk about the handle real quick. You know, you got this handle that's a G10 handle, these scales that are on here. And, you know, I'm looking at the grip, and it's this kind of elongated honeycomb kind of pattern here. And it's not sharp, but it definitely has a texture and a grip to it. So if you can put a lanyard right here and choke back, you know, put your first two fingers on this part, choke back on it, put your lanyard around, and use this as chopping. That'd be easy to do with a knife like this. But you know, this is not gonna just fly out of your hand. It definitely has some grip, but it's not sharp. You know, a lot of knives like this, they're sharp. The handle scales or something, and I've actually taken handle scales off other knives. Looks like you can take those off right there. But I've actually taken handle scales off other knives, put my own on, or made my own with wood or something, because they're too sharp and they actually hurt my hand over time using it. So this is not sharp, but it definitely has a good grip to it. I already mentioned the jimping, the front and the back. Probably on the back right there is for when you are chopping and you're holding it like this and you want to chop some wood. You can do that. I mean, that again, it's survival knives. It's not going to be as effective as a machete or an axe or something like that. Of course, that's not the primary purpose of this. But if you had to, you could, and that's the idea. That's why I'm calling this probably the ultimate survival knife, and not just a bushcraft knife or just a tactical knife. It's kind of the all-around knife, and I do like that blade a lot. So that's not a sharp 90 on there, so that might be a little hard to, actually no, right there. That's pretty sharp. So you might be able to throw some sparks with that right there, but certainly not this part. This is a little bit more rounded on this top portion right here of the blade. It does have, the blade does have a HRC hardness of 61. So, you know, as when you're thinking about the blade itself, they're saying it has this gray wash finish, at least on this one. Obviously, this one right here, it's got that black coating on there, just to give it a little more resistance to corrosion, more than it already would have with that 11 point, whatever it is, 11.5% chromium. I think it's in D2. So even though you have the a little bit higher chromium, it's not a full stainless steel. But what they've done is they've added this coating to it, and it's a titanium nitride coating that they've added to this just to give it a little more resistance. And of course, you have that edge retention that's already on there. Real quick, I want to talk about the sheath that it comes with, this Kydex sheath. They've also improved this with the version 2. And the closer I look at this sheath, the more I see some of the intentional design in here. Not only, you're putting this in, do you have this kind of thumb release, push thumb release right here. So if this is hanging down, and you know, thankfully, you know, you can have this dropping down on the side of your, you know, from your pants, and it has this Velcro and a snap, so it's a two-way hold on there. You can turn this around. You got these rivets right here, but you also have these, it's like hex nuts or something. And so you can turn that around, but great retention. That's not going to come out. There's no rattling or anything with this sheath. But I love that thumb push release, good snap. I mean, come on. I mean, that's you can't beat that. So great sheath that comes with this, and I think, you know, like I said, this is an upgrade from what the first version was. So they've obviously listened to some feedback from folks, and they've improved it with this sheath. So let's talk about value real quick. So this is now selling on their website for $87. The Blackout version right here, this is selling for $89. That's retail. What a great price point for a blade like that. I mean, I've got hundreds of knives. I mean, I've got all kinds of knives everywhere. And for a blade of this quality, the fit and finish on this blade, I mean, for $87 for this, all day. And, you know, you can get 10% off if you put in the code Provide and Protect. So they're not paying me for this, but I did want to be able to provide you guys with a discount for the knives that I review from them. And again, they are an amazing company. Their customer service is amazing. And like I said, I purchased their knives before, you know, I even started this channel. I was using this Grizzly, you know, before I started doing anything with it, and just because I thought it looked cool, I read good reviews on it, whatever. But when I saw this, I was like, man, that is a knife I really want to review. And if you need an all-around, you know, survival knife that can do it all, I mean, if you want to chop with it, tactical purposes, backcountry, bushcraft, I mean, you know, it's not going to be probably the top bushcraft knife. There's probably better designs for that, especially for batoning and other things like that. But for an all-around blade, absolutely, 100%. I guarantee you, and I will, maybe on a future video, I guarantee if I took this out and started doing some batoning with this and processing some wood for a campfire or something like that, that would not be a problem at all with this. And, you know, even the ergonomics and looking at the overall design, that you can see, you know, this pattern right here, how it flares out right here, you just it feels safe. Like you're not going to slide your hand up onto the blade. A lot of knives, it's just straight onto the blade. You know, you got that protection right there. So overall, you're talking about a fantastic blade steel with this Cryo D2. You're talking about a great length. I think 4.5 inches is a fantastic length for an all-around purpose survival type knife. The blade shape, you know, with this kind of compound, multi-purpose blade shape, kind of spear point, kind of drop point here. You know, a little bit of sharp edge right there if you need it for throwing some sparks. Certainly for the handle, it has enough texture and grip, but not too sharp that it's not going to have hot spots and give you hot spots when you're doing it. The lanyard hole, full tang construction, so it's going to be strong when you're using this. You know, the jimping on there, I mean, the chamfers, I mean, every part of this, they've thought so much about this. And I think the reason for the V2, the version 2 here, is that they had so much feedback from the first version. And so they wanted to incorporate all of that into this version 2. And I'm so glad they did, because I'm excited. So it's summertime right now for me here in Tennessee. And this coming fall, you better believe I'm going to be taking this out into the woods and doing a wide variety of, you know, chopping and camp use and other kinds of things. And I'm going to be testing this out in greater detail. But I want to at least bring you along, show you this up front right now. But high quality knife, no doubt from Off-Grid Knives. Well, this has been helpful for you, and I'll do some more tabletop reviews like this in the future, and I'll also take these out into the woods, and I'll put these to the test here soon. But I at least wanted to give you a first look at this amazing Off-Grid Knives Backcountry V2.